Hey, everybody. This is a recording. We've had some conversations on Slack about a whiteboard presentation that Southern has been performing in some of his customer conversations. Southern and I spent some time together a few days ago talking through his talk track. This is an attempt to turn that into something that we could repurpose for customer conversations. Maybe we could have our SCs learn this talk track. We could share it externally. I've tried to take some of the concepts that Southern was sketching out and turn them into slides. I have some thoughts on how we could enhance or improve the messaging. Just want to get your review and feedback. The purpose of the presentation is to show a customer how Tableau and Salesforce work together and how Salesforce can improve the customer's data strategy, and how we can make every business person in an organization more efficient by enabling them with data. It's a fairly technical conversation. I think the best audience for this presentation is probably someone like a head of analytics or a head of data, a CIO, a chief data officer, someone like that. I think analysts will get the concepts. I'm not sure if a head of sales will really grok it, but I think if we're talking to a customer and they're thinking about their kind of more cohesive data strategy, this could be a really influential talk track to go through. I think the presentation needs a hook, so I'll get into it, but this is something I created. I'm not sure if it's the right premise for the discussion or not, but I kind of like this concept of the death of data gravity as, like, if we're gonna put this on social media and we're gonna try to kind of drive some conversation around it. I think there's this concept in a lot of organizations that everything revolves around the data warehouse. So they have Snowflake or Redshift or SQL Server or whatever data warehouse that they've invested in. They spent a lot of money in kind of making all of their processes and applications fit that data warehouse. And this is a concept that a lot of IT departments are familiar with, because those data warehouses are so expensive, and they spend a lot of time and effort getting data into that system in the right structure that they can make use of the data in other ways. The purpose of Southern's whiteboard is to illustrate the reality and how this actually works in most organizations. So this is my kind of slide version of Southern's sketch. If you think about data and how it exists in an organization, it flows through a set of workflows and tools. It starts with your employees and their customers. Your employees have customer-facing conversations, they execute transactions, your people collaborate with each other, et cetera. Those interactions are captured in systems of work. So your customer-facing employees enter information about their customer conversations into forms, and conversations happen in collaboration systems. Administrative employees or other internal folks input data into systems they use. That data flows through a set of workflows, like employee customer onboarding, support tickets, pipeline management, et cetera, and it ends up in a system of record. And that system is called a transactional database. It has tons of information in it. Under the covers of Salesforce is a transactional database. It's got thousands of tables and millions of records of information. And every other app you use has a similar concept: Workday, ServiceNow, SAP, whatever it is. The data is massive and expansive. There are thousands of tables. The process is optimized for data collection. So it makes it easy for employees to input individual records into the system, and for corporations to collect massive amounts of information. It's not optimized for insights. The other thing that organizations want to do with this data is be informed by it and see trends and categorization and let it drive their decision making. Over the past couple of decades, organizations have realized how important that is. But the problem is that this data, this transactional data, is not really built for insight generation. So what do organizations do? they send data through a series of steps that we refer to as ETL, extract, transform, load. That's what ETL stands for. Some people will say ELT, extract, load, transform. That's essentially the same concept. It's a more modern term that some people use to represent kind of the order that they use the technologies. Same concept. It's a series of steps and transformations data has to go through to get into a centralized and useful format for taking action upon the data. And it lands in a database. So data flows down through this process and ends up over here in a Snowflake or a Amazon Redshift or a Databricks or whatever. There's a myriad of tools that do this. And these are databases that are built to centralize information from a number of different systems and then allow you to query or output lots of data in an aggregated format that allows you to get insights and kick off AI workflows and predictive models, et cetera. There's lots of different actions and outcomes that can be taken on this data. That usually requires an analyst to perform some tasks on the data. And the output usually ends up being some sort of artifact, a report or a dashboard, some output that's then used by employees, managers, executives, individual employees to inform decision-making. And as you can see, this is a long and complex process. The data should be used to inform this first group here in the top left, to improve their customer interactions. People can be made a lot more efficient if they're informed by this data. But it has to go a long way to be able to get to the point where it can help with that. And what's more, imagine something in this process changes. You could start collecting a new data object, or your territory changes, or there's a new form that people need to fill out. It changes the entire pipeline. We have to go back through all these steps in the workflow and adjust them. And that takes people, and it takes time, and it takes investment. There's a whole industry around this process called the modern data stack. And there are tons of vendors who offer products that help with different steps in this cycle. And it's very expensive and time consuming for customers to support. And it also requires a unique skill set. There are data engineers in organizations who understand this process intimately, and they're talented technical individuals that are expensive to hire and retain. And it often results in a bottleneck because organizations have to prioritize getting data from here, from your people, but through all these systems and back to where their people can consume it. It seems like it should be pretty close. You know, it's all about data and serving it to people, but it has to go a long journey. And this bottleneck in ingesting the data into systems where it can be used inhibits organizations from getting insights. So we started to ask ourselves, what would it take to make your people more data-driven? We have these two different systems. One is optimized for data input, highly contextual, very disparate. There's a different one of these for every app you're using. This one on the right is optimized for data output. It's very generalized. It's built for aggregating and querying data. It's very centralized. One big thing we think we can do at Salesforce is help clean up this pipeline. Make it more efficient, make it more automated, focus on the benefit to those business people that need to be activated with data. So what if every time you added a custom field or a territory change or a sales manager left, what if you didn't need to go through this cycle again? What if it just automatically happened? That's why we invented Data Cloud. So now I don't have to do this ETL. This can happen automatically. I don't have to schedule it once a day or once a week or whatever. It happens in real time. I don't have to build a bunch of entitlements tables to make sure the data is secure. We already know that because we're Salesforce. We're the system of record. So we're there where the data is originated and where it's stored. And what we've done is built a new technology to make it so you can activate that data without going through this full pipeline. We're Salesforce. We know how the data is structured. We understand how all the data is related. We have the context around our data. So we can build that into our analytics, and we can build that into our AI. And we can create new user experiences that are embedded in the flow of people's work. And that is how you get insights into their hands so they can actually take action. So that's great. That's a great benefit. When we talk to customers about it, they usually get it. They usually see why that's useful. But a smart customer will ask, that's just Salesforce data. What about all the other data that lives down here in this analytical database? That's from all the other systems we have. As we mentioned, there's a different system of record for every app that your customers or your employees are engaging with. So we're not saying you should stop doing this. It has benefits. There's a lot of outcomes that beneficial outcomes you get from having data in this analytical database. But our customers are telling us they need a better way of supporting their business people and get them insights faster. And we know that they already have solutions, have spent a lot of money, built extensive processes to support these environments. They've made investments with database vendors to be their enterprise data warehouse. And so what we've done is we've built close partnerships and tight integrations with those database vendors. I've mentioned some of them before: Snowflake, Databricks, Amazon Redshift, et cetera. You can go down the list of the top vendors in that space, and we have built or are in the process of building a partnership with those vendors. And that partnership involves zero copy data integration with those systems. So let's say, for example, you want to combine your customer data with your employee data. Your customer data is in Salesforce, your employee data comes from some other system. Maybe you want to know the attrition risk of your customer service agents. That requires knowing information about your employees and also some information about their interactions with customers, so you can understand the impact if they were to leave. You can ask that question without having to move data in between these systems. You don't have to build an extra copy of that data. We can see it without having to copy it, without requiring you to load it into our system. We've built Data Cloud to be very, very open. We understand that you have lots of different data systems. And what's more, this system speaks SQL. You don't have to learn a new language. We're supporting open standards that our customers are already familiar with to make this super easy to adopt and implement. Our strategy is not to be the center of your data universe. We think the concept of data gravity is dated. The customer reality is everyone has thousands of applications generating valuable data. The era where all of that data has to be perfectly mapped before you can activate it is over. What we want to be is the insights layer for your customer data. So you can notify your salespeople about which customers they should be interacting with based on which accounts or leads have been most engaged with your brand. So you can offer hyper-relevant advertising experiences based on the segment or persona of your customer. So you can avoid customer satisfaction issues and respond to support issues as they happen without forcing your customer to wait in a queue for hours or days. So you can build a trusted conversation internally in your organization where people know the facts of their business and what they can do to run more efficiently and add value to the organization. And that's the benefit of including Data Cloud in your data strategy. So that's where I'm at with this presentation. I hope it makes sense. I've tried to take Southard's points in his whiteboard and turn it into something that could be, repeatable and used by a seller. I do think it's a fairly technical conversation, but I think it, if we walk through it kind of point by point and sort of the build that I was just describing, I think a lot of customers will get it. I think we might need more examples. I like the idea of having some sort of hook. I'm not sure if this concept of the end of data gravity is the right thing, but I think something like that makes a lot of sense. That's kind of a concept that a lot of it's the customer reality that they base a lot of their investments on what data warehouse they have, and we need them to think about it a little differently. And I need to clean up some of the animations in here. This SQL thing is supposed to pop up later, but hopefully you get what I'm trying to get at. So let me know what you think, and we'll we'll keep going through drafts of this. Thanks.